Hi everybody, day 4, coach your brain. Well, I have been coaching my brain this morning because let's talk about fight or flight. So this morning I came running down, after I'd been working all morning, I came running down to get on my paddleboard to do some paddleboarding because this afternoon I'm going to have to work. So I have an hour to do some exercise, do my sport, what I normally do when I can, and joyfully got on my paddleboard, started paddling out to sea, and then I saw something which looked like a brown paper bag. And I actually thought, I wonder what a brown paper bag's doing floating under the surface. And then I saw another, and then another, and then another. And that is when I realized that I was in the middle of jellyfish. Now it's quite interesting to think, okay, well, what was my natural reaction? And would you believe my natural reaction was to turn around, paddle back to shore, go running to the people who are the, let's say, the experts with all the paddle boards and the surfboards, asking them, oh my God, there are jellyfish. Are there jellyfish? And they confirmed, yes, there are jellyfish. They'd seen them. So my first reaction to fight or flight was actually flight. I ran away. I then had a choice. I had a choice to go home or to get back on my paddleboard. And as you can imagine, I got back onto my paddleboard. I started speaking to my fearful brain, my fight or flight brain, my survival brain kicked in. And I got on the paddleboard with the resolve that I was not going to fall in today. And it's reminded me, you know, when you drive a car and you drive and it's dangerous, there is snow or there's ice or you need to pay more attention. And you know, when you are in a moment of danger, that's when the brain, it's almost like you get a double kick from the brain. You've got the subconscious brain, which is doing that subconscious pattern. And for me, it was rowing and standing and being on the paddleboard. But at the same time, my conscious brain was kicking in overtime, in overdrive, making sure that I was not going to fall in. And I didn't fall in. It also reminded me of last January when I was in Panama. And I was paddleboarding as a beginner, because I was still a beginner back then. I was paddleboarding on the Pacific Ocean with the thought that there were sharks, there were stingrays, there were things that I really was not aware of. And I remember having that same feeling of resolve, you know, that determination, that steely grit. And I think that steely grit kicks in when we know that there are dangers around. And I'm curious what all of you think. Firstly, when you are in a situation that you have a fight or flight, what do you do first? Do you run or do you fight? And secondly, if you come back to that situation and you start, I'm going to say, gauging your way through it and finding your way through that fear, do you recognize that true grit and determination and sheer, I'm going to do this and I'm not going to fall in, or I'm not going to go wrong, or I'm not going to put a wrong step here? My final thought on this fight or flight. You know, this year, I think many of us have all experienced the fight or flight of the situation and the pandemic, losing our jobs, losing our way of survival. And my real question is, so at what point do we get back on the paddleboard with true grit and determination and face the fear? At what point do we start living again and learn to live, maybe in different ways, but still enjoying? So for me, the question is, how can I now get on my paddleboard and still enjoy it? And that might mean tomorrow when I go, that I'm going to have to again be very, very careful, very attentive. I'm going to have to fight my fear, and I'm going to have to keep going and going until there gets to a moment of trust, and trusting that I'm going to be safe, that nothing is going to happen. And just a memory that I've had of last year. When I was in Peru, I went into the desert and we did one of those safari trips with those jeep buggy that go through the dunes, and they're twisting and turning and jumping over the dunes, and you're going really fast. And I was sitting next to the driver, right at the front. So you can imagine the adrenaline, the shock. And before we left, I looked at the driver and he wasn't wearing his seatbelt. And I said to him, "No llevas el cinturón. You're not wearing your belt." And he looked at me and he said, "God is my seatbelt." I'm going to leave that with you all.